Film Don't Lie for a spring game. I wasn't sure if we were going to do this, Brent, but we decided to because we haven't hung out in a bit. And so I'm excited to do this. We've done, I was going to say for a number of years, but I hate when people say a number of years that we've done FDL because all that means is I don't remember the number because it could be 1, it could be 45.
2021.
Okay.
It's 2021. Because
So
I think we started about halfway through, at least the video portion of it. We've done Film Don't Lie since 2019, but video since 2021.
Man, we've been connected here for a while. I want to give a general caveat before we bring up video here. This is G-Day. It is a spring game. It is a scrimmage. This is extra vanilla. There are not things to ascertain here in terms of scheme or what George is planning on doing. We're just talking about different players and how they look on the field.
Yep. It's more about highlighting skill sets and some things like the first play that Mr. Darren points out that I teased. You're going to see something that you didn't see the entirety of last season, and he looked good doing it. So we'll see.
Let's see what that looks like here. So first play, your eyes are going to be focused on Roger Robinson.
Because Dayne, how many targets, not catches, targets did Roger Robinson have as a receiver last year?
I'm betting you're telling me it's 0, which is kind of what I just drew on the screen, but it's really to highlight where he is.
Yes, and that's what's and the beautiful part about this is a couple of things from an offensive line pass pro standpoint, but look how natural he looks catching the ball. Like that's behind him. And he, in rhythm, just very quickly and easily snag and get upfield. That's not, when you think of him 6 foot, 240 out of the backfield, like that is one of those things where it's like, okay, if you're going to get this and have at least a threat and you're not afraid of throwing the ball and he's comfortable catching it out of the backfield, that's a big deal for them from a tendency standpoint moving forward as you get into the fall.
Other thing I just wanted to ask you about here. So we have Chaz Chambliss coming on the speed rush here. General thoughts about, look, spring game, if one person does something good, that means the other person didn't do something as good. So this is kind of hard analysis to do. But just coming off the edge, Ernest Green, what do you think?
Chaz did a lot of work in the offseason on pass rush moves. And by the way, this isn't just a one-play thing for him. He consistently won the entirety of the scrimmage. And I'm going to call it a scrimmage. But like his one-on-one matchups, hand usage, bend, you could tell, go back to it one more time. You could tell that he did a lot of winning. The other thing, I don't know if this is something that's just never going to change, but I've never understood why Gabe Harris stance like it is. Whereas everybody else has forward lean and you're always up there ready to go, he's always just very stationary and slow, very slow. Boom. Look how fast everybody is off the ball compared to him. Now, granted, he's kind of in that role right there, giving a little bit of shove to Delp and then coming, and that's why he doesn't get touched by the right tackle. But his off, like there are certain times where his get off is great, but the stance, I've always curious why he's not had a more lean front heavy stance compared to the rest. Because if you watch him, that's consistently when he puts his hand in the ground, that's his stance. And you see it time and time again where he's just off the ball slower than now. Once he's moving, he's a force and he's a player. But yeah, so first play of this drive, at least.
You love to see offensive line. This is going to be Georgia's force this year. I think it's going to be Georgia's leading group. I think there's a lot of teams Georgia gets an early lead on and leans on that offensive line to make sure that it's an easy, manageable game.
Yep.
All right, next up, in terms of skill players, we were looking to see which transfer guys were going to step up, who was going to make plays in this game.
Dylan Bell.
Dylan Bell's receiver number 1, right?
He's the one. Lovett and then him, but Dylan Bell more as the X guy, Lovett as the slot guy. Because look at the route, you can see the route right before the breaks off the screen with him here, because he's working in, and then boom, slams on the brakes and gets Humphrey turned around. It's just a tough route, and the fact that you have an NFL quarterback playing college football easy to make that throw. The other part here is you have a 6-man protection and you technically get your quarterback hit in the chest. But, scrimmage, whatnot. But still, I do agree. And you saw it like the catch on the sideline in tight coverage that probably wasn't a touchdown, but maybe could have been. I know Aaron Murray on the telecast was arguing that it was, but just great catch. I think he's going to be that guy that's that true one-on-one winner on the outside.
The main point that I just want to make here is that I'm drawing a line down the hash. If Carson Beck gets to a line of scrimmage and he sees this, I got to think his eyes are going there for most plays this season.
A lot.
I think you trust what he does in one-on-one.
Like target share, I think Lovett's going to be the primary target. Like if we at the end of the season look how the targets get divvied up, but Bell will be close in terms of, I think, second.
This play we go to Gunnar Stockton at quarterback. Troy Bowles would have had a sack on this play.
Yeah, and this is one where, hey, Andrew Paul, if you're trying to win time, that's not really how you do it. So that's one where, and you talk about offensive line protection. That's one of the things where PFF grading does a good job. And when we get to the games of itself of isolating some of that stuff, offensive line versus the issue from a running back perspective. But also, this is one where for the young guys, the 5-star guys that Justin Williams, Ellis, KJ Bolden, JJA, Chris Cole, like those guys that got in early. They got worked on the first drive. They were in. Like, what's interesting here is that if Bolden would actually turn around, the replay showed it, but if Bolden had turned around, I think it could have been a relatively not easy interception, but would have been a pick. He just never found the ball. And a great job by Evans, who's, I think, showing himself to be somebody who is going to go make plays on the ball. But Bolden there, and then the next play, Bolden took an angle and got beat out, took a slightly off angle, got beat outside. The couple next plays later, Justin Williams get out physical in the reds, near the goal line. So like those guys got, hey, welcome to college football in the SEC early on. But after that, they got in. So we're going to show one of those plays later.
Shout out to Evans, playmaker for Georgia.
Yes, I think he's that next in line of guys that we haven't really seen a lot outside of transfers and/or Bell, Arian, Lovett, rah.
Lovett, you say?
I think back when I watched this play to when we did Film Don't Lie when he transferred to Georgia. And I think we literally showed 5 of these where he was just torching guys at Missouri on this exact play, this exact smash slot fade concept. And the other thing I think you can tell here, and in the game in general, you can tell that Carson Beck was trying to put more air into the football purposely on throws. And like there was one to Lovett in tight coverage that he kind of dropped going the other way, I think, or in the first quarter. That was like the Bowers play where it's a delayed and Lovett comes out. It's very tight coverage. I think Aguero even knocked it away. But you could the loft on the ball. And that's one where it's like, okay, if you're going to do this and put that loft and then let the receiver go make the play, because as you put the loft on the ball and you give these guys chances, now it becomes more of a receiver issue than a QB issue. You've given him a chance to make the play, and he went and make it, and he's going to keep making it all year.
You want to know how I know this is a scrimmage and Georgia doesn't show many coverages? How often do you see this for Georgia? Like, we've done this for a while. This isn't happening on game tape very much.
I mean, I could see, a 3rd and 2, you're manned up type situation. But, yeah. You're likely not going to see Dan Jackson as the single safety either.
Yeah. So, and personnel in the spots too. All right. We thought he'd be a red zone threat. Colby Young, big, tall guy.
63% contested catch rate come in the 2 years at Miami and 2 for 2. I think maybe 2 for 3, maybe one other thing, but got this one. It's going to be, it's a weapon. And I know I've talked to some people and seen some things, with him, and he looks the part. Like he almost makes some of the tight ends look a little small. In a way, he is a big physical player.
Only complaint just in terms of like spacing here, not really what you see on this.
Yeah, it's rare, and oftentimes maybe that route's a little deeper, but yeah. But still, he's going to be a player. He's going to be a red zone threat. He's Cager, Wims, that kind of player for you potentially.
Holloman had a little bit of that.
Yes.
Rosemy had some potential for that, but he didn't do that much at the red zone. If anything, he was more
middle of the field.
Running the goalpost and be big there. All right, so that's Colby Young touchdown. We were thinking KJ Bolden, this guy, can he compete for a starting job at Georgia as a true freshman? It's going to be tough to do still, but when you see potential like this on 3rd and 1 and just the reaction that he has here.
He's going to play. He's going to play a lot early, and he might be very Starks-esque in terms of you get into that first game, and after about 2 series, and then you're like, okay, yeah, he belongs, and then he just plays and keeps playing. Because it's more so about like feet active and then boom, close and be physical. But yeah, just the talent, you see the talent, you see the ability, and there's a reason you're a 5-star recruit, potential first round pick down the road, that type thing, that type of talent. Be fast, be physical. Now, I will say this, one of the things, and I think in in the post game show, I was kind of meh on Gunner's play, and rewatching, I'm okay with it, and I think they can function very well. But this is the part of his game that, to me, everything just needs to speed up. Like that ball, a little bit even soon as he makes that break, if that's the throw you're making and you're saying that's your read, like right now, throw the ball. But he pats it, and then the elongated motion, and that gives time for the tackle to be made versus that ball being caught almost right now, like the ball being out and the ball being caught right in this range, and getting the ability for the receiver to then turn upfield, but the receiver has to wait. And that's the quick game for him. And something that gets, I think, pushed aside with Beck, or not necessarily pushed aside, but you forget about how good he is at just the snap, turning a double play type throws, that there's a big difference between him and Gunner, and that's part of the offense that would be a little bit different, I think, if he's not in the game. The QB run game, I think, might replace it.
You want some gunslinger from Gunner.
Well, just quicker. Just move quicker. Get the ball out quicker. Move with the arm action even quicker. That kind of stuff. Let it rip. Even on the touchdown to Sokobi later, you'll see. Like that ball should have been out quicker.
Carson Beck was not perfect. He had some NFL-level throws in a scrimmage. He also had some that not quite as good. The main thing here to me, and I'm sure that he was taking the deep shot the whole time.
Oh, yeah.
I would point this out too.
Yes.
There's Arian Smith open, and Arian Smith throws his arms up thinking he wants the ball. I don't ever think that was an option. This was a deep shot the whole time.
No. And I will say, though, what's interesting about Arian coming across there in the intermediate, I don't think it's one of the ones we're showing. But what was Arian's one catch? I think it was his one catch, was coming across slant, kind of, over route, in breaking route. You know how many times he's caught a ball in the intermediate area in the middle of the field in his career?
Are you going to tell me 0?
1. 1. Everything else is very short, at the line of scrimmage, behind the line of scrimmage, or deep. And if you start adding that element to his game and adding him as a threat in the middle of the field to maybe catch slants and go to that type of thing, or catch in breaking routes and then get ahead of steam, yes, win. Offense better instantly.
Who would run that route in the last couple of years? That's a McConkey route.
That's a McConkey route. Love it some, but both of them are on the field now. That's Bowers even too, in a way.
Yeah.
Like if he could be that type of threat and they start using him on those in breakers, better offense. Your offense is better.
Beck's eyes the whole time are down here.
Yeah, he's throwing that regardless.
Let it loose. And,
yep.
Do what you're told to do.
And that's that's one of those things. Scrimmage, I'm going to do it. I want to see you. And a lot of times it might be something you never know in a scrimmage like situation. Cause I know this from a coaching perspective, call in a play. And now that they've got the headset thing, hey, throw this thing deep regardless. I don't care what happens.
I do want to point out one little blocking situation here that I was pretty impressed by. So we always talk about, you don't always have to put a pancake block or have the big, just stay in the way. This is really good adjustment here. Stay in the way.
Yep.
Keep your feet moving. Don't get too committed one way. Boom. Keep your body in front. Give your quarterback plenty of time. That'll do.
I will say, in general, the wins along the defensive front and some of the pass pro-ish breakdowns, it was a little more like I thought it would be nil, but it's a positive aspect from the defensive side more so than I look at it as a negative thing from the offense perspective.
Little love here for CJ Allen.
As we should. When you talk about just sort of leap and, the sophomore leap, I think it's coming for him. Like you don't put that, you don't take the other 3 off the back of your jersey unless you think you're going to be, and they think you're going to be the man, because that 3 carries weight from a previous owner of that number at that position. So I think very much so that he's going to, and he stood out. Him and somebody else that I think we're getting ready to show too here soon. He stood out that, hey, you're different this year, and that's going to be good.
We didn't see much drop back coverage from him last season. It was a lot of read and react kind of things. This feels like an advancement of his game already, just in terms of comfort to do this.
And that's he's baiting the QB right there. Like, it's all, one of the things you saw it from the back angle where he went to him and then went back. So yeah, beautiful stuff from him. Like, he was consistently, he just stood out the entirety of the scrimmage.
2nd and 20 here for Carson.
This is one where, again, Colby Young, just the ball's on him in a heartbeat, like NFL throw, in breaking route, zip, boom, right there. But what did we talk about with Mr. ETN? Got it. He was really bad in pass pro when we did the Film Don't Lie. And here is his first sort of big rep in that uniform, at least in a quote game situation. And boom, right there. Now I think he kind of maybe semi gets with a little bit of a hole because his arm's around here, but still head should be up maybe a little bit more. But the fight and the want to and the going after it versus catching and getting pummeled, that's a big improvement for him.
Colby Young really is a kind of basketball style football player. Let me get my position here for this rebound. Let me block you out here and make sure that I'm in front here because I'm bigger than you are, and you can't do anything about that. That's what he is. That's his skill set. That's something Carson Beck really hasn't had yet. Maybe some flashes of that, but it's something. This is unique to Georgia's pass game.
And you could tell, like, even just he's a good bit bigger than Rah. Like, you can see he's got an inch or two at least on him. And looks the part in terms of size more so than him. So I saw them stand beside each other at one point in the game.
You mentioned ETN's blocking. Let's give him the ball.
Yes, and good things happen when you're going to, like, we talked about it when we did Film Don't Lie, the transfer thing on him. And then Kirby actually, I was shocked he said that after the scrimmage, like, hey, the ETN and or Cook or whatever he said, or the Swift comparison. Yeah, he's like, sure, that's about right. Like, I was shocked that he kind of admitted that. But the burst that you see, and Dan Jackson plays football like he doesn't care if, like, he feels no pain.
Nope.
And reckless abandon, awesome. But also, let's give some love to Mr. New Center. Let's go back from the snap.
Well, I want to point here too. I think we have a hold there because I watched this shoulder come out here. Right there.
Yeah. Nah.
Okay. Sometimes,
sometimes
when you get to see the pad there.
When you see the pad, yeah, very true. But I don't know that
it's
that
a
gets
spring
called
game.
in the game. Yeah. Very true. But look at Jared Wilson here at center, Christian Miller, and then pancake. So zone left, boom, he works back, take him down,
boom,
and that's. I just did a piece on Wilson and talked about it and showed some of his movement skills. His movement skills are very evident, and it's very evident they want to use them. I'm curious to see how he holds up from a pass pro standpoint, because it looks in pass pro sometimes where he catches a little bit and gets powered, the speed to power, or gets overpowered and pushed back a little bit. If he keeps getting better and better at that as the game, like, dare I say, you could potentially get better at that position.
Could be.
Because of the things he could do at the second level.
Other standout defender that you alluded to, Michael Williams.
Looked the part, looked different, and Kirby talked about how he's actually practiced all spring and made a play here as an interior rusher working outside.
Because for expectations last season, slightly disappointing. And
yes.
High expectations for this game.
Yes.
We were thinking all SEC type player, didn't have that kind of season. You see how he looks and how he's moving, his reactions on the field right now. You're like, okay, that's why those expectations were there.
And the talk of him playing more jack, more stand up, more true edge, I still think in a lot of these third down situations, they're going to move him on the inside. That way they just get their best pass rushers on the field. Put him on the edge in first and second down. Could you see a double-digit sack season? It's never happened at Georgia since Kirby's been there, or in the Kirby era. It hasn't happened.
I would like Michael on one side and Jalen Walker on the other. Though I will say here, for as much as I don't think the fan base is too hard on him. Xavier Truss has been around Georgia forever.
Yes.
Not bad here.
No.
Good job.
Solid.
Yeah.
Especially when you're trying to get speed to the outside and you push him like that and knowing the ball's going to be out quick. But yeah, great play from Michael, and he definitely looked apart, looked different in this scrimmage.
Sokovie White, freshman receiver.
See, again, like that ball needs to be out quicker, get it out quicker. But, he's shown, and we've seen some of the highlight clips that Georgia tweets out that from the previous scrimmages, that he's got some serious quicks to him. The other part too is if you're Mr. I don't know in terms
Nitro?
of penalty, but if you're Mr. Tuggle and you're trying at least to show the coaches, hey, I can be physical and I want to be physical. And there you go. That's at least something. Like he to me stood out. And the other player, we're going to show him a little later.
I just love in a scrimmage that Andre Evans calling for the flag.
For the flag. Of all, that's one of those in a scrimmage. You're like, unless it's unbelievably blatant, it's not likely to get called. But also, so go pause at the beginning, go back a little bit, left side of the screen. So this is the other one to me, and this is, I think, was the biggest development from the game, because when you're thinking of depth, and if one person in the interior defensive line gets hurt, who's next in the rotation? 99, JJA, like consistently won as a pass rusher, both with power and with hand usage. And we're going to show one later where he gets they give him the sack on the play. But this is another one where it's like the QB's getting destroyed right there in the real game. And here we go. I think this is it.
This is it.
And it's not so much about, like last year with Damon Wilson, you saw instantly that he was different physically, athletically, the bend, the quickness, all that sort of stuff. This is like actual having a plan as a pass rusher and using your hands and getting into the tackle, boom, pull them in, have moves. And that's something that oftentimes just isn't, it takes work and you see it develop over time. But when a kid who, by the way, won't turn 18 until November comes in and is doing this, like, okay, next level, going to be a big time player.
Yeah, I agree. And size and speed, hard to beat that on the edge. Georgia, I think, needs more depth there. Glad they have it. This was the one that I'm like, oh, Carson Beck.
Best throw of the day.
You said NFL quarterback, and I'm like, NFL first-round quarterback if you're doing this.
And it's going to be fascinating to me to hear the Chris Sims or the JT O'Sullivans of the world break down him when the draft comes around next year. Because I can just see Sims already frothing at the mouth about some of the throws he's going to make from the pocket, in rhythm, in the pocket, in structure. Now, the stuff that Caleb Williams and some of those guys do out of structure is why they're different levels as prospects. But what he does in the pocket and the throws that he can make at the down the field in that 20 to 35 yard range, again, next level.
And then we wrap up with sorry to the baby hedges and the fence along the side.
I mean, I would love to know if they would call this a catch in the real game. I think so, because he kind of had it right there, and then he had the 1 foot and kept it the whole way.
I mean, historically, the Tyrone pro throw catch for Alabama, I know that happened in the middle of the end zone. That was around a player, and that was called a touchdown. So I think you probably say he has possession, foot down, touchdown.
I'm sure they'd have some super slow-mo thing where maybe he was just getting control as he's going out about. Who knows?
Yeah, anyway, you would have more cameras on this in regular season for a scrimmage. This is bare bones. ESPN Plus.
We're massively, I'm massively picking nits because this is still a great throw and catch and a great way. It was one of the great things. It wasn't a good thing that you didn't get to see Puglisi because he was hurt. But look, I mean, Beck had what, like 46 attempts. I mean, Gunner had a ton too. You got to really see, and the end of the game, this is to tie it or to try to tie it. And I thought it was this, we talked about on the post-game show, you don't want everybody juiced up for a 2-point play and trying to, quote, win. But Kirby was also like, yeah, I don't want to put a 2-point play on tape. I like that as well. Good call. But that's a great way to end it when it's like, okay, we've done this. We've been back and forth. And now my QB dials it in at the end and shows why he's the number one returning quarterback in the country and why you should be excited about 2024 if you were a Georgia Bulldog fan.
Overall, though, the thing that stood out to me was the depth of Georgia's defense in this game. And I know you and I were talking just before we went on air, just the philosophy of, well, defense should look better in a spring game. However, during the spring, all the headlines have been about Georgia's offense and how it's doing well and the defense having to catch up. I just look at the amount of talent on that defense, how deep it is, how big and fast they are. Georgia, I think, as we all knew this, but when you see it on field, in pads, even in a scrimmage, that is one of the best football teams in the country. You will not find any team that is definitively better than that one. There are probably some other teams that can compete with Georgia. I think Ohio State has a roster, if they have a quarterback, that can compete with Georgia.
Yep.
We'll see from there. That's 1 and 2, whatever order you want to throw it.
No, the other couple, I think, are on their schedule on the road.
Texas. Alabama, I'm not sure.
Ole Miss because of the portal.
Ole Miss because of the portal. There's a world where LSU, I think, has a good roster.
Yes.
I like Nussmeier a lot. We'll see.
Yeah.
It's a different offense than they've had with Jaden Daniels. But overall, I look at it and I say Georgia has a really good quarterback. Georgia has a new set of weapons in a lot of areas, but they're skilled. And Georgia's loaded on defense and offensive line. It's all the pieces.
Yeah, especially on the offensive line. I love seeing Micah Morris at right tackle because in a situation like you might be able to me, get your best 5 linemen on the field that way if he's able to play there, and because he's going to be a mauler in the run game. Can he hold up in pass pro? That'd be interesting to see how much they do that. It adds to the versatility. In terms of depth, like I thought Jake Pope looked at least enough to be Dan Jackson 2.0. Where you can come in and be solid, not get beat, and make a play and be there, be sort of where you're supposed to be. I was intrigued by Chauncey Bowens, freshman running back. I thought he looked like I thought he looked very Dajon Edwards-like, just thicker. But in terms of how he ran, I thought that was good to see. Xavier McLeod. And then
I'll tell you the story
freshman
with McLeod. With McLeod, when I was told from my people in South Carolina, all the talent in the world, I think in recruiting that was evident, didn't always give the effort that you needed at South Carolina, wasn't always checked into what he needed to be. In terms of what we saw at G-Day, seems like that's going pretty well for Georgia. That could end up being a coup from the transfer portal that I think a lot of people aren't really talking about.
No, I mean, the beautiful thing about defensive line, and when you have a bunch of defensive linemen, when you can go balls to the wall for 10 to 15 snaps, and you get the best 10 to 15 snaps from those guys over the entirety of the game, it's great. It's great for your defense. And they make 1 or 2, TFLs or plays or disruptives or pressures or something like that. It just infinitely makes your defense that much better, less pressure on your secondary, things like that. So the depth, I think, some of the young depth, I was very encouraged by in this game, or in this scrimmage.
The next storyline to come, there will be players, likely some that we even just mentioned, that will be transferring out of Georgia. That's the nature of what we're watching here. And we expect some movement happening on the roster. I don't know which exact names. And frankly, if I did, I probably wouldn't tell you just because that changes on an hourly basis.
Yes.
Based on a lot of issues, some financial, some not as financial. And
I would say 99.9% financial, but
yes,
0.1% playing time.
Georgia will lose defensive back or 2. I feel pretty good about saying that. Receiver is always a spot, and Georgia loaded up at receiver, so there's a chance there. And then reserve offensive lineman. Usually look at the depth chart and see where people have taken some shine there. And, Colby Young comes in and he's a starting receiver. Are the receivers behind him that were waiting for their chance not going to get it as much? Same with some of these offensive linemen. Georgia has a very old offensive line. And so who's behind that wants some playing time? And you already saw that in the last portal cycle already. I mean, Austin Blaskey's getting really good reviews at North Carolina, and he's going to be a starter on that team.
Yep.
More of that could come from this. That's coming soon. We'll all follow that together. I don't know that you and I will discuss that next week because we're going to jump into some NFL draft stuff before that happens. And I'm excited to do that.
Live mock. Do a mock next week. Back and forth.
This channel will be happy to know that my Saints fandom, at least right now, has ended because they let Jameis Winston walk. And that was my comedy, and I needed that. So now they've chosen to be boring. And the city of New Orleans should never be boring. So in this mock, should I be picking for the Saints? I am trying to tank the Saints, and I will have them pick Keaton Slovis in the first round.
I mean, he's the next quarterback, right? Or Spencer Rattler, right? Maybe Spencer Rattler?
Yeah, but he might end up being okay in the NFL. I want someone that's not going to be good. I want the Saints. As for all the Falcons fans that are also Georgia fans that watch us and have wanted the Saints to burn for years, I get it now. Except the Saints are boring, and like the Falcons are much more interesting after Kirk
Now
Cousins.
they are. Yep.
Yeah, it's
100%.
so much more fun to follow the Falcons and want them to do well. So maybe I'm an NFL free agent this year. Maybe I'll just jump on the Kirk Cousins bandwagon. We'll see.
It makes it more interesting. I just want to watch interesting football. I don't want to watch the Falcons every week at 1 o'clock in a 20-17 game and be bored out of my mind. I don't think that's going to happen.
You don't want Falcons Bucks 20-16.
No.
One of them with the ball needing, they have the whole drive, one timeout. Yeah, I get it.
Can't put money on that even. Like, why would you even want to bet on that? No.
We're going to wrap it here. Back next week for some NFL draft talk. For Brent Rollins, I'm Dayne Young. This has been Film Don't Lie from UGAsports.com.